Dear friends, welcome to the channel, the Eastern Front. The issue of transporting infantry on the battlefield with the help of special vehicles in the Red Army was given attention back in the 30s. At the same time, each time it turned out not exactly what the troops needed. It turned out to be too bulky and inconvenient. For this reason, the case for armored personnel carriers didn't advance further than experimental developments. As of the beginning of the summer of 1941, a program was launched to develop tracked armored personnel carriers on the chassis of the T-34 amphibious reconnaissance tank. These works managed to reach the stage of tactical and technical requirements, and then it became absolutely not up to armored personnel carriers. By the end of 1942, the T-34 and KV received handrails that facilitated the landing of troops. The result was that the Red Army made the Great Patriotic War without having armored personnel carriers as a class. The problem of the lack of mechanized infantry delivery on the battlefield was solved in the same way. The tank became a standard means of delivering infantry. While in the case of the Soviet tanks, the T-34 quickly became such. This tank was quite large. By the spring of 1942, it had become the most massive tank of the Red Army and could drive where others had given up. So, tank landings on the T-34 were a familiar thing. It should be noted that the Red Army was the first to take care to provide at least a minimum level of amenities for the landing. In April 1942, an order was issued to install handrails on tanks. They were the first to be installed on the T-34 of plant number 112. In Nizhny Tagil and other factories, this began to be done in the autumn of 1942. About the same time, handrails appeared on the KV-1 heavy tanks. At the same time, since the beginning of 1942, proposals for various devices related to the transportation of troops on the T-34 began to appear. These very proposals were very different. Some suggested using armored trailers, and in other cases the T-34s themselves were offered in their role. Others offered various devices for more efficient use of the landing force on board the T-34. These very proposals were not limited to paper or text only. In the conditions of demand for such ideas, the rationalization proposals were fully implemented by the forces of repair shops. Just one of these implemented proposals, this design also applied. Its author was Major Kazimirov, senior inspector of tank troops at the political department of the 38th Army. Some had a common stereotype of a political instructor. All through, there were more than enough intelligent and well-versed people there. And Grigory Markovich Kazimirov was just one of those who understood this topic well. Based on the results of the use of tanks of the 38th Army in the battles of late July and mid-August 1942, Kazimirov had an idea how to increase the effectiveness of fire. The essence of his proposal was that tanks T-34 and KV-1 were proposed to be modified by installing armor pockets. They were proposed to be placed on the sides, as well as in the aft part of the tank. The thickness of the armor of such pockets was supposed to be 8 mm. This made it possible to protect the troops from the fire of rifle-caliber bullets. In addition, such screens were not very heavy, given that the mass of the T-34 and KV-1 approached critical values. The question of mass was very important. By the way, Kazimirov called the landing troops sitting in the pockets an external crew. In his opinion, 8 additional members of the external crew should have been taken on the KV-1 or T-34. It was assumed that 4 people would be machine gunners, the same number of submachine gunners, while 1 submachine gunner could take an anti-tank rifle with him. In the on-board pockets, the crew was placed lying down, with 1 machine gunner and submachine gunner in each. The rest of the troops were in the aft section. The side boxes were open at top, and the embrasures were placed in the front. As for the aft box, it had embrasures for shooting forward and backward, and there was also the possibility of shooting slightly to the sides. The aft box had folding sections and there was a hatch in the rear wall. During the attacks, the enemy infantry cut off the troops, and tanks often fell victim of flanking fire. Given the poor visibility, especially on the sides, the chances of tank being disabled by flanking fire turned out to be very high. This was indicated by statistics. More than half of the hits on the T-34 and the KV fell on the sides. The appearance of armored pockets made it possible to provide a high density of fire and knock out enemy infantry, preventing it from hitting tanks. In addition, Kazimirov proposed to issue grenades attached to the landing of 10 pieces per person, of which 50% are anti-tank. Considering what the RPG-40 and RPG-41 anti-tank grenade is, it was even more terrifying than anti-personnel grenades. By the way, on my channel there is an interesting video about these grenades and why the soldiers didn't really like them. Moreover, in this case the armored pockets were protected from the shockwave. The most important thing is that the case has progressed significantly beyond the proposals. Pockets were equipped with the T-34 from the 96th Tank Brigade, which was used in combat. The brigade command was satisfied with the results of using the converted tank, which gave Kazimirov a reason to write about this know-how to the High Command. Kazimirov also proposed the special tactics for using tanks equipped with additional firing points. With the combined action of tanks and infantry sitting in boxes, they proved dense fire, and the opportunity to hit tanks from the stern also disappeared. The idea of using tanks at night looked original. In this case, there were two powerful headlights in the aft box, which were supposed to illuminate the front edge of the enemy's defense, blinding his soldiers as well as giving good illumination of positions. The idea seems to be delusional, but the headlights of the combat light were massively used after the war, and the beginning of the Berlin operation is also remembered. The use of tanks using a smoke screen was also proposed. All these ideas were sent to the High Command in September 1942, but they never had an answer. Major Kazimirov sent his materials again in December 1942. As it often happened, the idea was rejected. The Major wrote about his inventions to the very top, but this didn't help to launch the design into a series. Finally, it's worth telling about the further fate of Major Kazimirov. The war ended for him in early September 1945, by which time he had already become a colonel. During the war, Grigory Markovich was awarded the Medal for Military Merit, the Order of Patriotic War of the First Degree, the Order of the Red Star, the Order of the Red Banner, as well as medals for the victory over Germany in the Great Patriotic War, for the victory over Japan, for the capture of Budapest, for the capture of Vienna, and for liberation of Prague. Dear friends, that's all for today. What do you think? How useful this upgrade will be in real life if it came into series? Share your opinion in the comments. And it was Tim, and as usual, I wish you peace and health. See you.